I've been playing this new Metroid ROM hack, Rogue Dawn, it's called. I really like the, well, in this part, you get to wear this spacesuit, and it looks like a kind of a old-fashioned, overcomplicated kind of a spacesuit, as opposed to what you normally see Samus wear. Super sci-fi, kind of a superhero thing. You see that part where the lighting was orange in that little corner? That's where an item was. In this part of the game, all of the power-ups are in little nooks like that with special orange lighting. I've already got a lot of power-ups. I've got the wave beam, got lots of missile packs, a couple energy tanks, high jump. I've got several power-ups that weren't in Metroid, like wall jump and spring ball. That's kind of cool that they were able to add that. That was screw attack there. Sometimes it looks like I know where I'm going. I totally don't. This is just me realizing things as I go along. Even though I've been playing for quite a while, everything about the way the backgrounds are done is always sort of confusing to me. It's, it has this style that's almost like line drawings. In this part, it all sort of looks like a chalkboard. And so sometimes it gets hard to tell what's positive space and what's negative space. But I think it really works. I think the visual style of this whole thing is really, really great. Except I don't really care for the kind of monochrome color scheme on your character. Well, I guess most of the characters are like that. This is one of those spots where it looks like I knew where I was going on purpose, but I was just trying it out and I ended up here. Look at the water, it actually has really good waves. As opposed to in Metroid it was, oh, that's a recharge station. You can get missiles and health replenished there just by standing on that thing. But in Metroid there was no animation or anything with the water or any of the fluids. It was just not even color cycling or anything like that. It was just solid color, did nothing, motionless, just like Super Mario Brothers. And this fluid looks really, really good. And this purplish color will do damage. I guess you can think of it as lava or acid or something, but the other kind doesn't. You can, when it has that color, that's fine. You can jump in that. There's a part of the game that's very similar to this, where you actually go underwater and it changes your jumping. It makes you jump slower and I guess higher. But it's got that sluggish. This I totally did not expect to find this. This is new to me. Big sculpture, and I wasted a few minutes in there looking for something, so I clipped that out. I mean, there was nothing. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I was just looking around to see if there was anything to it because it looks like a special room, but I didn't find anything. It seems like all of the enemies, like this thing I'm trying to shoot here, is just a redrawn Ripper from Metroid. And this thing spouts these little hurt stones. This is all familiar stuff. They didn't really change very much with the enemies other than the graphics. There's an example where there's still an item that I hadn't gotten yet in one of those little nooks with the orange lighting. This was a new discovery for me, so I don't know where to go to try to get to it. Any clumsy mistakes here, but even though I'm kind of defenseless and tucked in this corner, at the last minute I realized I could just put some bombs and save myself a little damage there. I love the background here. It looks like big ribs or something in the water. And there, the different parts overlap and twist together. This whole section of the game looks kind of samey. It just looks like it's... like you sort of get the impression that the whole game looks like this, and I guess it's a little plain, but I really like the darkness and everything, and I really like that you get to have the spacesuit in this part, because I assume, you know, this is supposed to be a hostile atmosphere, but checking the map there, it actually has a map and a corner map, unlike Metroid, but it's not really very helpful. But yeah, this is only one of the habitats in the game. It's got quite a bit of variation in different areas. I'll show later on in the video, there's at least one other very different kind of habitat ecosystem. There's another missile pack that I hadn't found prior. Or maybe I had gone by it, but I didn't have the spring ball to be able to jump up there and grab it like that. Something about the way all the backgrounds are done is just always new to me. It doesn't, it's like nothing looks distinctive. It's hard for me to tell where I've been. Part of that's just the newness of the game, but I think there's a large part of it too that has to do with just the technique of angles and everything. And see, when you go up the elevator into your ship, where it's like sort of your home base, you remove your spacesuit and you see these aliens perched around here in the background, and it kind of seems like they're statues, but I think they're actually supposed to be characters. And I say that because there are actual characters later on that are the same way, and you know they're characters because they have dialogue on the screen. And here is like the forest area. Like everything in this part of the game has got trees and foliage. Another charge station. In this habitat, she doesn't have to wear a spacesuit. There's lots of these little tease areas where you walk into a tiny nook and you can't go anywhere, but it just shows you that there's something over there. And often you see a power-up in those situations, but sometimes it seems like it's just to show you that there is a space where you're able to go. And here again, I'm not familiar with any of this, but I just realized that this looked like a good spot to put a bomb. And then I found a brand new Metroid sculpture again. Had no idea that was here. And there's a new missile pack for me. And you see that enemy over there. I don't know why they're so weak. They only take one missile. But it's actually a redrawn fake Kraid. If you remember in Metroid, before you find Kraid, or, well, if you take a certain path to Kraid, you can find an imitation fake Kraid that's much weaker, but he looks exactly the same as the real Kraid. I really like how in this part, those, it's a recolored scree, or redrawn scree, the bat-like worm things that stick to the ceiling. They're well hidden in this foliage, and the way that the ground is done makes it sort of awkward. You can't just like run past on flat ground like you would on Metroid. So this is a lot more demanding. And you see that little butterfly thing I just stepped on? It's just incidental scenery. I like that kind of stuff too. There are several things like that. little life forms that don't hurt you and you can't hurt them, but they're just there to dress up the scenery. I really like the color choices here, the greens and the tan and brown. It's sort of not obvious to use like brown for a treetop, but it makes the right kind of look, I think. And I also like how this part of the forest is vertically oriented. That's something you don't see very often. Has a good alien look to it. Overall, I don't feel like this at all. I mean, it's got its own unique style. It's not like any other, like, I can't compare it to really anything that I can think of, but it doesn't do for me what Metroid did. Here's me discovering that I can jump off of the black walls with the wall jump. Like the original Metroid had that strange tiley look where everything was a square, made up of squares. And you can see like in this part, everything is jagged, lots of angles. It looks very natural. I like it a lot, but it doesn't do for me what Metroid does. They changed the I don't know, that they changed the engine a little bit. So like this Samus, she's supposed to be named Dawn, but she steps up on small inclines, so she works with this terrain that doesn't have that blockiness of Metroid, and that's a huge difference. I would have never thought of anybody doing this. Another little tease nook, and this time you can see an energy tank over there I haven't gotten. And I wasted some time trying to find it, so I cut that out. And there's this cool pumpkin skeleton thing, sculpture. I really like that. I don't know if it really fits with what's supposed to be going on, but it looks cool. And, oh, this room, it loops around in a strange way, where when you go out the bottom right, you end up at the top and drop back down, and then you're in the same place again. There are lots of places like this where it seems like things go one way, and there was one part where I think I went up or down, and then when I came back I was in a different place. So it makes things super convoluted when you find these dead ends or loop arounds that put you somewhere that you totally don't expect from back where you were at. These parts with the little burrow holes where you can bomb through remind me a lot of Metroid 2. A lot of the structure of the map in this game reminds me of Metroid 2. It's got the same kind of... Oh, there's another cool sculpture thing. Skull on the ceiling. It's got the same kind of like one-way sort of feeling where you feel like you don't have more than one way to go most of the time. Unlike the original real Metroid, where you kind of always have options. But the way this is done, the way the enemies are used, the way the terrain is used, it works much better with the Metroid engine than Metroid really does. Because here, you sort of feel like you have control over how much damage you take. When you get hurt, it's really your own fault. You're not just being bombarded with swarms of enemies. you feel like you have control over things, even though all the flaws of Metroid's gameplay are still here. Although they did fix the little thing where you can roll off of a cliff and then unroll from a ball and jump in midair. That's like sort of a famous exploit that people use. It's removed from this. And here's a little change of scenery. You get into this overgrown area, I guess, where it's raining. And those spiky puffball things do damage, so I'm trying to avoid those by running into enemies. That's the safe thing to do. Pretty impressive effect here with the rain. I think it looks really nice. It doesn't really look so much like real rain, but I think it works for this. I've been through here before, but I totally forgot that this is how you get through. Even more scenery change a little further on here when I stop killing myself in the water. There's lots of ruins, the tiles and the Jozo statues. This part looks pretty different. So this is a lot of different kinds of environments just in one part of the game. And of course the ship area looks, it's got the mechanical stuff. And the ship is pretty big. It's a stage in itself. It sort of takes the place of the final stage in Metroid. Has that same kind of mechanical feeling. And there's actually, I found a place where it looks like there's a ship in the ship, like a small ship in the large ship. And I assume that that's probably going to be where I go at the end of the game to escape self-destruction. I like this part. It sort of feels like a lot of Metroid 2, going down a vertical shaft with all the ruins. I'm trying to find my way over to the left. I'm hoping to find a little, like right there. I thought I saw the background open up on the left wall as I was falling, and I go back up and keep trying. And it was because there was that missile pack up there, and I don't know how to get to it. There's got to be some kind of a little hidden nook somewhere. And the way the backgrounds are done in this game, you really can't tell. It's not obvious like it was in Metroid. There aren't really a lot of spikes in the game, but there are a lot of different kinds of spikes. I think some of them are pretty creative. These are like the least creative ones, I would say. In the underwater area, they're like little crab claw type things that grab up at you from underground. And there's a cave area where there's lots of bones, bone, rubble, skulls, ribs, and things. And there are spikes just kind of sticking out here and there. And they're like straight, long pikes. Not very creative, but they look really good. There's another missile pack I haven't found. Actually, after this I did find it, but it was a separate session. Anyway, definitely the best Metroid hack I've ever played. One of the best NES games in general.